Hello, and welcome to Channel Zero TV with John and John. I'm John,
And I'm John.
and tonight we're going to bring you something a little bit more obscure than usual. It is a 1933 friendly propaganda video called The Road is Open Again. Now, this is based on the writing of a song that John will explain the context, but some of you watching this may have heard this song recently because it is the opening number in The Plot Against America, a recent HBO series based on the Philip Roth novel of the same name. But the song was written during the Roosevelt administration to celebrate the NRA, not the NRA you're thinking about, but a different NRA that John can give you some background on.
Well, the National Recovery Act was an attempt to regulate wages and hours. It was designed to put the maximum number of people back to work. It extended all kinds of protections and recognitions to labor unions. It was very, very heavily advertised and freighted to the American Republic. It was, for the most part, voluntary in nature, but businesses that were participating were encouraged to display a blue eagle silhouette in the window to show that they were participating in this far-reaching program to put people back to work. And Hollywood, of course, being Hollywood, got in with both feet on it. You'll notice a lot of the motion pictures in the early 1930s have these big eagles. They're black and white, but they're very clearly the NRA silhouette eagle with the little logo, "We're doing our part," underneath. And tonight's video, basically it's a music video, is a song sort of celebrating the NRA and the possibilities of America getting back to work during the Great Depression.
Yeah, and this song had a very interesting origin, which this video depicts with stunning accuracy. So without further ado, let's bring you The Road is Open Again.
There is gold in the blue, there is hope in the hearts of men. All the world from away to the sunny and air, 'cause the road is open again.
The poor boy has fallen asleep. He's been writing a song for the NRA.
There's nothing like a good song to inspire a nation.
Things are getting better every day.
Well, Abe, it looks as though we can stop worrying about our country. President Roosevelt has it headed right again.
All it needed was a plan of action and a man with the courage to put it through.
There isn't a person in America who won't profit by the National Recovery Administration, if every man, woman, and child will do his part.
You can always depend upon Americans.
Did I hear someone mention NRA? Oh, I didn't realize who you were. You see, I've just been writing a patriotic song. I must have fallen asleep.
Don't excuse yourself, my boy. We've been watching you. In fact, I've been watching everything that has happened in this country for over 157 years. I've seen it grow from 13 states to the greatest and strongest country in the world. And now through the National Recovery Administration, the NRA, it is striving forward to finer and better things.
I know the NRA is a great thing for America, but you see, I'm just like thousands of others. I hardly know exactly how it operates. If you'd explain it to me, it might give me an idea for my song.
Just what do you want to know?
What is the idea behind the NRA? What'll it do?
It will end unemployment and restore the purchasing power of the American people, the thing this country has been trying to do for many years.
Oh, great. Tell me more about it, will you?
President Roosevelt has asked each employer to split up existing work to give more people jobs and see to it that every man has a living wage.
Yes, a man and every man's job. I lived to see the freeing of the slaves. But this is a step toward the freeing of the slaves of the sweatshops, eliminating child labor, and giving the toilers a chance to enjoy the beauties of life.
What can I do to help it out?
You and 120 million other Americans can help by patronizing stores that display the Blue Eagle. Those stores are sharing to bring back prosperity.
I suppose everybody is compelled to sign the NRA code.
No, this is a gentleman's agreement. President Roosevelt is asking each to lend a helping hand for the common good.
Oh, I see. As soon as everybody goes back to work, they have more money to spend, and that would increase business everywhere. Is that right?
That's it exactly. The more people buy, the more things the manufacturers will have to make, and the farmers will have to grow. And the road to better times will be open again.
The road to better time. Open again. Open. Why, that's it. That's an idea for my song. Listen, here it is. There's a new day in view, there is gold in the blue, there is hope in the hearts of men. All the world's on the way to a sunnier day, for the road is open again. There's a note of repair, there's a song in the air, it's the music of busy men. Every plow in the land meets a happier hand, 'cause the road is open again. There's an eagle blue in the White House too, on the shoulder of our president there, with a lusty call telling one and all, brother, do your share. There's a new day in view, there is gold in the blue, there is hope in the hearts of men. From the plain to the hill, from the farm to the mill, all the road is open again. Everybody sing it. There's a new day in view, there is gold in the blue, there is hope in the hearts of men. All the world's on the way to a sunnier day, 'cause the road is open again. There's a note of repair, there's a song in the air, it's the music of busy men. Every plow in the land meets a happier man, 'cause the road is open again. There's eagles blue in the White House too, on the shoulder of our president there, with a lusty call telling one and all, brother, do your share. There's a new day in you, there is gold in the blue, there is hope in the hearts of men. From the plain to the hill, from the farm to the mill, all the road is open again.
So political messaging was delivered with considerably less irony back then. But we should note this was actually one of 6 films that were generated in support of the NRA done by each of the major studios in Hollywood. This was Warner Brothers' contribution with Dick Powell, but there were other movies as well. I think one with Jimmy Durante, is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
But John, you want to tell a little bit about this picture and some of the actors who are in it?
This is a very unique and interesting oddity. It's Dick Powell. At the initial apex of his career, he was mostly known for light musicals. He had a beautiful singing voice, and he was just constantly playing musical college freshmen in musicals in the early 1930s. So he's definitely like a very interesting A-list star at the time. The 3 presidents are played by this wonderful sort of police lineup of like great B-movie character actors, starting with Alan Deinhardt, playing George Washington, who was mostly known for playing corrupt politicians and racketeers and con men and things like that. And this is a comparatively rare example of him playing, father of the country. President Wilson is played by Samuel Hines, who had the exact opposite sort of typecasting going for him. He did not start acting professionally, by the way, until he was 54 years old. He had been a stockbroker on Wall Street prior to that. and he'd been wiped out in the crash. But he'd always had the bug for acting, and so somehow he ended up in Hollywood. He was always playing like very honest judges or a general in the army, some sort of like benign authority figure. I would say Woodrow Wilson is very much inside that sort of spectrum. Lincoln is Charles Middleton, a storied character actor in Hollywood. He had worked with everybody from Frank Capra to the Marx Brothers. He's in Duck Soup, as a matter of fact. He's mostly known today for being Ming the Merciless, the bad guy, the Emperor of the Universe in the old Flash. He was a very dependable serial player. I think he was in about a dozen of them, in addition to the 3 Flash Gordons. He almost always played the apex villain, if not the apex villain, then the apex villain's vital right hand.
This is not the first time he's segued into Lincoln, right?
Yeah, no, he had a very weird side hustle. It was a very funny side hustle. He had a strong resemblance to Lincoln. He was very tall. He had that long, lean face, high cheekbones, the nose, the beetle brows, the high forehead. He looked like Lincoln. You put the beard and the top hat on him, the stovepipe, and you've got Abraham Lincoln. And he had this whole side hustle where he would go out to high schools or on 4th of July and places like that and, give the Gettysburg Address, read the second inaugural address, read from Lincoln's letters. He was a professional Lincoln impersonator. And his grandson tells this hilarious story that his fame as Lincoln was such that Bugsy Siegel, the famous mobster, Benjamin Siegel, out in Las Vegas, contacted him and promised to pay him an exorbitant sum of money if he would just come out to Las Vegas to the Flamingo Hotel and just read the Gettysburg Address. So on the appointed day, Middleton packed up his car, drove nonstop to Las Vegas from Los Angeles, put on his costume, pasted on the beard, put on the stovepipe, walked out in the big room of the Flamingo Hotel, read the Gettysburg Address in that magnificent baritone of his to thunderous applause, departed, went back to his dressing room. There was Bugsy Siegel, who, with a flourish of thanks, handed him a paper bag full of money, $30,000 cash. Middleton takes his costume off, takes off the beard, packs up the car the same day, doesn't even stay overnight in Las Vegas, drives straight back to Los Angeles nonstop, goes to his son's house. By now it's breakfast time the next day. Knocks on the door, walks in and says, "Where's the boy? Where's my grandson? I want to see my grandson." So, he makes this huge commotion, goes into his grandson's bedroom, wakes the kid up. The kid's all of about 10 years old. And the grandson has been telling this story for years. Charles Middleton dumps the money out on his grandson's bed and announces, "There you have it, boy. I'm the highest paid actor in Hollywood, $1,000 for 6 minutes work."
Now, it was interesting, a bit incongruous hearing Washington and Lincoln talking about a contemporary economic program from the early 1930s, which we should mention was eventually judged to be unconstitutional. Its legacy is really in the Blue Eagle. You still see on movies, and you still see occasionally on the sides of buildings and in old magazine ads. But I found it pretty interesting to have Wilson included in there, right? Because I would guess younger folks in this age, if they think of Wilson at all, they think of his, shall we say, problematical relationships with race, but his inclusion in this pantheon. Washington, obviously, everybody would include him, Lincoln, but then, Wilson, I guess probably he was, a sort of 20th century president, but I think he was also an activist president. If you think of all 3 of these presidents, they all either led or presided over administrations where the role of the federal government expanded considerably. So that's one reason I could see Wilson being included alongside what most people consider the 2 greatest presidents. Any other reasons to include him? Do they just sort of need a party member?
Well, I think, party registration might be the key argument here. You have the father of the country who, for 8 years stood above factions and still stands above factions, at least in the popular imagination. You then have Lincoln, the first Republican president and arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest. So you got to get a Democrat in there somewhere. And the problem is that between Lincoln and Wilson, there's only one Democratic president, and that's Grover Cleveland. Now, in a lineup that includes Lincoln and Washington, Grover Cleveland, though he had his virtues, he's just not going to measure up. He's not going to have the gravitas. Now, you could go back further in history and perhaps bring in Thomas Jefferson, but that weights it a little bit towards, the founding fathers a little bit too much. So I think they wanted to have somebody contemporary. And the only contemporary Democrat in play other than FDR himself would be Woodrow Wilson.
He's the president who saw through very difficult times of World War I. This movie was obviously made years before America entered World War II, but it's sort of prescient of Roosevelt, the war president. I think also this just is a interesting kind of approach to, I think Roosevelt was really revolutionary in using the major medium of the day, which was movies and I suppose also radio, but also the motifs. This was a lighthearted musical short which appeared in the cinemas, certainly when my dad was going to the movies for quadruple features back in the 30s. But to use it for political purposes, that was the equivalent of social media revolution in politics that took place, 10, 12 years ago.
Right. The thing that I'm a little queasy about in this short is it really is a little bit worshipful towards the then incumbent.
It's a hell of a song. We're glad you were able to join it with us and glad you're able to visit again for another Channel Zero. For Channel Zero TV, I'm John.
And I'm John.
And we'll see you next time.